Choosing a surrogacy agency is one of the biggest decisions you'll make, whether you're hoping to become a surrogate or grow your family through surrogacy. But here's what most people don't realize. Not all agencies operate the same way. By the end of this conversation, you'll know what questions to ask, what red flags to watch for, and what every surrogate and intended parent should expect from the people guiding their journey. I'm joined by the education and matching team at Egg Donor Surrogate Solutions, a team made up of former surrogates, intended parents, and industry professionals with more than 15 years of experience helping families navigate this process. Together, we're talking about everything from education and screening to matching, communication, advocacy, and the standard every program should meet. So whether you're comparing agencies, just beginning your research, or already in the application process, this conversation is going to help you recognize what great support really looks like, because the right team won't just help you navigate the process. They'll help you move forward feeling informed, supported, respected, and truly seen every step of the way. Enjoy. Okay, so to get started, Lauren, and not to totally call you out, but you've been in the industry the longest.
Thank you.
Yes, which we love, our sage. A lot of women, they want to be a surrogate. They're looking for a resource. They go to Google. It's incredibly overwhelming. My favorite, they go to the Facebook groups and, things like that. When they start going down their search, when somebody is just even thinking about how do I start, what do you think are some of the questions that they need to be asking?
Well, first thing I say is I think when they go to Google, the first thing they need to realize is that the people who come up at the top of that search are the people with the most money.
Paid for it.
That paid for the ads that tend to be the much larger agencies that do not necessarily put what the surrogates' needs are first, because they're trying to do as many as possible instead of the best matches possible.
Barrett, you're kind of our front door. When you hear the question of what should they be looking for whenever they're discerning, what are kind of some of the things that come up for you?
Yeah, to piggyback on that, you want an agency to help you. You don't want an organization, right? I don't want Honda to run my surrogate agency,
right?
One thing I didn't know when I was first researching is we're in the baby business. We are 24 hours. Things happen. So ask that question. What are your hours? If I need to get a hold of you, it's only Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I want to feel like a person. We value you and your family. You're doing this out of the kindness of your heart. Yeah. You're not a number. And that's really important. And when you first are looking at this, you don't know what you don't know. And so ask the questions. Yeah. Meet different agencies. Ask you want to feel that connection, because you are going to be in this journey for over a year. Yeah.
Yeah. And there aren't enough surrogates. There will never be enough surrogates. No. You are what everybody needs and everybody wants. So you should have the ability to be making a lot more decisions. And a lot of agencies don't want you to know that.
So my first time, this sounds so horrible, especially for the seat I sit in. I did zero research.
Yep. Nope.
I didn't even know. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know there was multiple agencies. I mean, this was 12 years ago, but I did zero research, and I ended up in a really bad spot. And my second journey, I did so much research and found obviously Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions. But in the seat that I sit in, I want everyone to know that it's not all the same. And as we're telling them, please do your research. Please, we want you to ask other people, we want you to ask other agencies questions, because we are not all the same. And that is so important for me to let them know is please check around, do that research. Because I was treated like a number, and I was I couldn't get a hold of somebody. It was a Friday, and I did end up in the hospital, long story short, but I couldn't get a hold of somebody. And that was a really hard feeling. I don't know what to do. I couldn't get a hold of my coordinator, and she emailed me Monday morning at 9:00. I was still in the hospital, but that's not okay. Yeah. And so,
Well, and what a prime example of, everybody in the beginning, when you are doing your research, you're focusing so much on that match. It goes even further than that. We have some of the most amazing coordinators ever who are guiding you every single step of the way. The whole journey.
Yeah.
The whole journey.
You'll never be alone.
And after.
No, not just the highlights.
And you never have to wonder, what do I have to do next? What do I have to figure out? Like, they do it all for
Been there,
you.
Yeah.
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 I always say, like, it might be your first journey, but it's their
Thousands.
150th journey. It's their 300th journey. Like, they've got you. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think feels, and Amy, I want to give this to you, but what do you think feels overwhelming for intended parents when they first are even just starting out?
Absolutely. No, I think the process as a whole is by nature overwhelming.
Yeah.
There are so many steps along the way. There's so many checkpoints that intended parents are just coming to the table and starting to understand, wow, there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot that can go right too. But there's just so many steps, and then they're learning it all at once. No one arrives at this point ready to start their family this way. It's usually something that has taken some time and some loss to get to this point. And so everyone kind of starts somewhere, and it's just an onslaught of information. So I feel like the process by nature is just a lot, and we try to break that down step by step so that they can truly begin to have a better understanding of what goes into the journey. We do our best to just be as clear as possible about timeline, fees. We give some great PDF documents so that they can reference that. I think that sets us apart.
It's interesting you said something at the beginning about transparency. Crystal, can you speak a little bit into why the transparency factor is so important, particularly as an intended parent?
For sure. I mean, Amy and I both went through this journey personally, and I would imagine you felt the same way we did. It's pretty difficult to figure out who is ethical and who isn't, who is legit is the word that I was using at the beginning, a legit agency, and who is stealing money from people who are desperate to have children and who is exploiting women who might be underserved. Like, all of these things kind of kept me up at night. And so finding an agency who is willing to even just put the fee structure on paper up front, so I wasn't guessing and trying to get around like vague language to understand their fee structure, having it on paper, no fine print, this is what it is, was so helpful in trust building for me that, okay, you are a legit group of people, you can be trusted. And similarly, I think every intended parent comes in wanting to know, how long does it take and how much does it cost, right? So if we can put how much it costs on paper and we can be honest and clear and upfront about how long it takes, that just takes a little bit of guesswork out for people who are also trying to understand the medical and the legal and the relational side of all of this. And it becomes a little bit less overwhelming when we can be transparent about the two things that we know by and large how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost.
For sure.
So we all know that I love to travel. And I have tried and failed in a number of scenarios while traveling. And one was several years ago, we were in the Czech Republic. And on day one, I said, I'm going to grab a map and we can do this ourselves. Very quickly learned. I did not know where to go, what to do, where to find good food, what was a safe street, what was not a safe street.
Sure.
That did not work. On day two, we had a guide through a tour company, and he showed up and he said, "Hi, I'm Michael. I'm from Santa Barbara." And I was like, that's not the Czech Republic. And it was an okay tour, and we did okay, and we had a good day. And then the third day, we worked with Sven. And Sven had grown up there. And Sven knew the back roads. He knew the best way to everything. He knew the specific little stand on the side of the road that had the best food to eat. But more importantly, he also knew that if you went down this road, that actually wasn't a safe place to be. And having someone who had been there for decades made all the difference. And I had such a similar sense of like deja vu as a client here, because I started out with just Google and a basic knowledge of surrogacy, thinking I could do it myself, and very quickly realized trying to match in a Facebook group and with a stranger that I was about to hit some potholes. This was not going to go well. And I had talked to a couple of agencies who had not been around very long and thought this could be okay or not. And then I talked to Lauren. You all are listeners may not know how personal this group is to my own story. Lauren matched me. Whitney was my coordinator. And it was very apparent from our first conversation that you'd been here a while, that you understood what roads to go down might be dangerous, where there were potholes that I could not anticipate. Things like parentage paperwork. And when the last medical bills are coming in post-journey and the agency is handling those things, I didn't even know that was a question I should ask. I had no idea. And just having an agency with, 20 years-ish of experience made all the difference in us having a good journey versus having a journey that was either not fun or potentially hazardous.
Yeah. One of the things that I didn't realize for the longest time that there are other agencies that make you sign.
Yes, like
your
an
part-
exclusivity agreement.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Why don't we do that?
Feels kind of like a bait and switch. There's a lot of agencies who will promise XYZ, promise your match, promise all the things, and then what if you can't deliver? Like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to promise you I'll have you matched this quickly, or we'll find, IPs that meet all these criteria, or we'll match you with your base comp at that. We're not going to promise that and not deliver. So it's the same with our intended parents. When they're coming on board, they don't pay fees up front either. We're not going to bait and switch anybody. We're honest. We're transparent. We're not going to do that.
Speak into that about the financial piece of that, because I feel like that is so super important when it comes to matching.
Yeah. The financial piece of the intended parent.
There is a lot of pressure to match intended parents. And I would love to promise everybody a baby every day.
Yeah.
But again, it really comes down to, if I take your money, then I owe you a surrogate.
Oh, interesting.
And I want the best match for you. We want the best match for you, not the next match, not the quickest one. Whoever's next up, that's
the
who
next
you
set
get.
of IPs do not make the best match. That's not, and that's how a lot of agencies do it. Next girl up, next IP's up.
Right.
There you go. And
Right.
It's not. There's no way to ensure that they agree on all of the really important matching factors when you do it that way. So that's why we don't do it that way.
Going back to that financial aspect, because like you said, Amy, it is a financial tool. I don't care how independently wealthy you are. It's a financial tool. Why is, again, the transparency of that so important? And what do you wish intended parents knew about, I guess, the financial part of things, particularly with maybe putting money down before you're matched, or maybe some of those red flags that they need to be conscientious of?
We talk to families all the time who've talked to lots of agencies, and they should. That's best practice. But sometimes the question is, well, why do some agencies take money up front and why do some not? And neither is bad. There's perfectly ethical ways to do both things. But more times than I wish I had, I've had the conversation with intended parents who gave a lot of money to an agency up front and were never presented a match, or were presented a match who didn't meet medical best practice guidelines, so their clinic said no, and had that experience over and over and over. And they lost a fourth, a half, 3/4 of the entire amount of money they needed to do this. And so now they're starting over, not even knowing if they'll be able to do this again. And I don't want that for anybody. And so I would say to any intended parent, and I know our whole team would say this, if you're coming through, ask up front, if someone takes your money, how much and what is the guarantee and when do you get it back? And if you're going on a list, how long are you staying on the list? And what guarantees are there that the people you meet when you are matched are going to pass your clinic's guidelines? And often we talk, on our team, we talk just as often as intended parents and surrogates, directly human to human, as we do agency representatives. And part of what we say human to human is, if I were doing this again, I would want to know, do all of your surrogates meet ASRM guidelines? That's the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. Do you follow SEEDS ethics standards? Those are the sort of best practice ethically protections for you as an individual. Do you take money up front to get on a list? How long are you on the list? What guarantees do you get that you get any money back? And any intended parent who would want to call us and say, hey, don't talk to me as an agency, talk to me as a person who's been through this, we would be more than happy to have that conversation, because it is just hard to know what red flags to look for unless you talk to somebody who's been through it.
A A couple things I would add to that are what percentage of your surrogates do not pass the medical or the psychological evaluation?
Yes.
Or matches break during contracts. Because if an agency can't answer those questions or won't answer those questions for you, that is a big red flag. And if they will answer, the numbers should be very, very low.
That's true. That is true.
Not taking money up front or not promising XYZ up front. I always bring it up. I hope that builds trust from the beginning. I hope that builds trust and they know that like they're not in this for the money, for the next match, for the next best thing. I encourage them to talk to other agencies. I would love for you to speak with other agencies and find which one feels like the best fit for you. Don't sign here. Please sign within the next 48 hours. No, call as many as you need to find the one that feels right for you and that you feel, that you're able to commit to working with. So.
And know how many parents are out there looking for a surrogate.
Lauren, can you speak into kind of just the magic sauce of exactly like you said? Yes, you may check the boxes on those certain things. You show up on a list, if you will, and you check those boxes. That doesn't necessarily equal a good match.
It doesn't make sense for an agency to be like, here's your one.
Right.
And then you have to find a reason to be like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And then the pressure of like, no, this is what you said you wanted. This is who you get.
Yeah, just meet them. Just meet them. Maybe you'll like them. No, we're not going to do that.
We hear a lot of stories about from surrogates who have been really pressured into other matches with other agencies that they weren't comfortable with. And they didn't know. They didn't know that they had options and that they could say no. Or maybe the paper that they signed said that they will accept the match as long as they meet certain criteria.
Or that they're asked to change their values and preferences on certain things, like, really hard topics and views like termination, vaccines, and things like that. Like, we will never ask anyone to change their stance on any of the things. Like, we value you and your choices, and, we'll never say, well, can you change that for these, it's not a right match. It's not.
And that's for surrogates and IPs. Because
right.
We don't need intended parents nervous for, 8 months about surrogate catching COVID because she doesn't want a COVID vaccine or, whatever. We're not going to try to pressure anybody into anything. And when it's right.
Yeah. And I do think that we get very set on certain matching criteria that have to be aligned. And in doing that, sometimes we forget about all the other things. Like, oh, well, you both agree you feel the same way about termination and you also feel the same way about vaccinations. However, you have nothing in common. Like, you're not going to be that's all you have in common. Yeah. Like, somebody's an introvert, somebody's an extrovert, someone that doesn't want much of a relationship, someone does. Like, those are equally as important as to how your journey is going to go than just being aligned on a couple of matching criteria.
That totally reiterates the idea of you are not a number. We are looking at you, the surrogate, you, the intended parents, just all of that.
Right. Because again, like, you match on those specific factors. But then when it comes to how do we handle problem solving, like how do we get along as humans and have our visions of the world and seeing it the same way? And this is a hard journey, even when everything goes perfectly. Yeah. It's emotionally charged and people are jacked up on hormones. So you want to be matched with someone who you have not just those matching criteria of being aligned for what needs to go in the contract, but core values and who you are as people and how you are going to relate to one another. And I think if you're not having a relational journey and it is more transactional and you are being hired to do a job and you never meet your parents. There are a lot of agencies where you never even get to meet the intended parents.
Maybe at delivery.
They don't even speak the same language. So you're only communicating through a third party. That's a very different journey from what we do, where the parents are a part of the journey. They come to the appointments. They're in the delivery room. Like, that's where the joy is in getting the parents to be a part of the pregnancy. And I mean, I don't want anybody to miss out on the joy that you can get out of surrogacy. Like, that is pretty much what I live by. Like, there can be so much joy in this if we do it the right way.
It can be so helpful for intended parents to just understand the landscape of how surrogacy works. I came in as an intended parent thinking, well, clearly you have a list of surrogates that are just sitting and waiting around on me to get here. And then I will be matched in minutes and we will go forward from there. And it's just not reality, but you don't know if you haven't been in this space before. And so being upfront about things like, hey, there are more parents waiting in the world. It's not our agency. it is most agencies and most places in the world, there are more parents waiting than there are surrogates. And so if you come in armed with that information, and then you meet with an agency who says, well, we do have just a catalog of people, just a waiting room of people waiting on you, that's a good yellow flag to go, well, if that's not normal in the whole landscape of surrogacy, why is that true here? And why can't they be matched? Is there something wrong that maybe these particular candidates are not getting matched at fertility clinics and keep coming back and keep sitting on that list? Because it sounds so good when someone says fast matching.
Yeah.
Until you start asking questions like, well, why? Why are they available? Why is it fast? And is it even a good match just because it's a fast match?
Lauren, can you speak further into that transparency and how that does relate to the matching part of this?
That how long is it going to take question is the hardest one. So part of our interview process when we're working with intended parents and educating them, and they're asking me how long, and I'm asking them, like, what do we need to make sure that your surrogate has in order for, what are your preferences, what are your criteria? Because if you only want to work with a surrogate in California, I don't even know if we're going to have one. But if you're open to surrogates anywhere, if you only want surrogates that, obviously we're only going to match you with people who share your views on termination. But depending on what those are, that will eliminate a lot of surrogates that we will be able to choose, and vaccinations. And those are just like the main key matching points we have to line up. Then comes the fun part of personalities and location, and that really is where the fun is, in putting the matches together of people who like each other and enjoy this process and get joy out of this process. And so I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Like we want to know exactly who you are. And it's so important that in your profile and your application that you are authentic about what you want and not just answering like, whatever the surrogate wants, whatever, like the more you share your authentic self, the better chance you have of getting a faster, much more compatible match.
Yeah.
Well, I think you hear buzzwords like, or you hear the questions about timeline. And of course you have the financial questions and things like that. But I think all three of you are kind of speaking into, we're going to guide you into what is the bigger picture. And I feel like that's building trust and then the relationship aspect of that.
I think that's why it's so important to have a matching and an education team versus like a one person doing it, because if someone meets with Amy up front, they're going to see a side of someone. If someone were to meet with Lauren, if someone were to meet with me, we're all seeing different sides of the coin, and to be able to represent them as a whole person and collaborate together, and represent the surrogate as a whole person and collaborate together to find the best match versus just a list.
Yeah.
Versus just a list.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of, I think we keep going back to this idea, but it's so important. You are not a number.
Right.
Absolutely. And I would say too, Whitney, like in a world of unknowns, that I think one of the best things that we do as an agency is just let those families know that we see them, we see their unique story, and we have our own experiences, because Crystal and I have been through it as intended parents, and that we are here to partner with you and guide you through whatever your journey shapes out to be. And that trust from the beginning, I just think is something really unique that we offer, and we're just there to support them however they come to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say that one of the things we do as an agency that's really great is just how much effort we put into screening our surrogates to make sure that, as much as we can know at this point, that they are great candidates. So that does take time, and that does take a lot of effort to collect all of those records, have those educational calls with them, to build the trust with that surrogate that they know they're going to be supported through the journey as well. The background checks that we run, the third-party insurance review that we do, all of these important pieces just come together to make sure that that surrogate, once you get to the point when you're matching with her, that everyone is a full-body yes, instead of I'm not sure, I might change my mind, I think this isn't for me, as much as we can prepare. And I feel like that effort that goes into preparing them that way really comes through in the quality of the match.
I feel like again, there's also, and you kind of spoke into it earlier, Crystal, about the ethical aspect of this. Because I think what we do is amazing, but it can be so easy for lines to get crossed. Can you kind of talk into the importance of that for intended parents and maybe just some of those like major red flags?
This is, for the most part, an unregulated industry. And there is a lot of room for misbehavior. There's a lot of room for taking advantage of intended parents, which is often what we're worried about when we come in. But boy, is there also a lot of room for taking advantage of underserved women in the country where we operate and underserved women in other countries. And ultimately, at the end of all this, no matter how you do surrogacy, there is a baby whose life story is going to be the story that you're writing. And you don't want them at 12 or 13 or 15 years old to go back in the books and go, wait a minute. My life started with someone being taken advantage of. My life started with someone not being told the risks. My life story includes someone who had no other choices. That's terrifying to think about when you get to the end of that road. And so it's super important, we believe, for intended parents to come in kind of armed with the knowledge about what is ethical surrogacy. How does it work? Well, it works when everybody has informed consent to what they're doing. And you can't have informed consent unless you have a full education, which is annoying when you're in the process of a full education. I fully acknowledge that no one wants to sit and learn more things before they get started building their family, nor do most surrogates want to sit through a long education process prior to beginning. But it is essential to being able to make honest, thoughtful, good for you choices along the way. And so we believe every surrogate should know the risks. Every surrogate should know the truth of a family story. If you have other children, they should know that. If you have one embryo, they should know that. If you are at one clinic or another, they should know that because they're making a choice about their body. Similarly, if a surrogate has had previous surrogacy journeys, clearly we want intended parents to know that. But if there is something about her that might be a judgment call. It's certainly not against guidelines, but an intended parent might want to know. Great example is a DUI in your 20s, and now you're 35. For some families, that's a big deal, and for some families, that is not a big deal at all. But we can't make an informed choice unless we have total transparency and total honesty in this process. And so ethical surrogacy begins with informed consent. It sits on top of transparency.
Barrett, I want to ask you particularly about maybe just certain red flags that women need to just be aware of when they are doing their research.
Ooh, yeah. Well, you really want to make sure that the agency is endorsed by SEEDS. You want to make sure that they're ethical, that they are following ASRM guidelines. You want to make sure that, yes, they're going to be there to answer any of your questions and like what that looks like, right? You want to make sure that they don't have an in-house escrow or attorneys. And really do your research, you know? Yeah.
So the surrogacy industry is not regulated like, you know, doctors are regulated, attorneys are regulated, but surrogacy agencies are not.
Except for in the state of New York.
We're going to come back to that.
Anyone can start a surrogacy agency and take your money and say they're going to match you with a surrogate. And there has been some impropriety in the industry.
This is why you are wary of Facebook. This is why I go on my diatribes about Dr. Google, just by the way. Moving on.
But so the ethical agencies have found a way to regulate themselves.
Sure.
So they have created the Society for Ethics in Egg Donation and Surrogacy, and that is what we refer to as SEEDS. So ethical agencies have joined forces in SEEDS to set the standards of this is the right way of doing things, and we're complying. So if agencies aren't joining that, then you have to wonder, why not?
And what are they doing? Like, why? And the ethics are there for a reason, like to make sure things are done the appropriate way, you know, that you follow guidelines. And guidelines are there for everyone's safety.
Absolutely.
And I mean, surrogacy is all about eliminating risk. And I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah. And that goes both ways.
Absolutely.
I mean, a woman so desperately wants to make this dream come true, but maybe something comes up in her medical records. Why wouldn't we say, well, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Well, one, she probably does not meet ASRM guidelines. So ASRM is the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, and they set forth guidelines that surrogates should meet, that intended parents should meet, how surrogacy journeys should run. And so, meeting those guidelines are important. Our surrogates are going to meet ASRM criteria, and they have a hard time sometimes when we let them know, I'm sorry, you don't meet ASRM criteria, and we're not going to be able to work with you. But it's for your safety, and surrogacy is all about mitigating risk, and it's mitigating risk for the intended parents and the health and safety of their baby, but it's about mitigating risk for the surrogate. And it's just not worth it. And it's hard to convey to her, like, you've hemorrhaged before. You're more likely to hemorrhage again. It's not worth, it's not worth that. You've got kids of your own. You've got a family of your own. And I know that you want to make this dream come true, but not at the risk of your health and safety. And trust us, if we could work with you, we would love to.
Right.
We want to accept.
That's what we never want to deny.
We want to accept every surrogate that applies, but we have to take your health really seriously. And
And a lot of people don't. There are a lot of people that are like, oh, well, they don't quite meet the guidelines, but maybe this doctor will accept them anyway. Or they always say, go for an indie match and you can get around that. And anytime you're getting around the guidelines, you're putting yourself at risk even more. And then you have to wonder, who's financially benefiting from your risk?
Yeah. And why? Like, why skirt the risk, or why skirt the rules and the regulations? Like, they're there for a reason. Yeah.
Well, it's just hard because some agencies don't follow ASRM guidelines and some clinics don't follow ASRM guidelines. And so it makes people want to skirt them because it's not a law. You can. And so it's just kind of a stick in the sand that we place, that we say, we're sorry. We only, work with surrogates who meet ASRM criteria. And by and large, only work with clinics who follow ASRM guidelines as well. And I think it's hard. They can be a little bit subjective. There's a little bit of gray sometimes in those guidelines, but we are going to always do our best to keep everybody safe and healthy.
I think the thing that I love the most, though, is we do take the time to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
In every case.
Always.
In every case.
Yeah.
And so it is worth it to ask the question.
Yeah.
I have been so shocked at how many errors there are in medical records. I mean, we had all the time, so many times, Meg and I have all these conversations.
Constant.
Like, the story's like, I never had that. No one ever told me that.
She didn't know.
They don't know.
Surrogates literally don't know about complications they had. They knew that I bled at delivery, but I didn't, and it's a hemorrhage. And they didn't know they hemorrhaged. And I truly believe that they didn't know that. Nobody said you hemorrhaged. They just said you had a lot of bleeding, but you're okay. And so then we get records, and turns out it was a pretty massive hemorrhage.
Right.
And so, so those are hard conversations to have with them.
But in those instances, the records are right, and the surrogates didn't
Correct.
know. We have found real errors where it says the surrogate was a smoker when she never was,
Correct.
because someone checked the wrong box.
It's true.
And now it's like, and so she has to go back to the doctor and get a letter that says she was never a smoker.
Sure.
I mean, doctors make mistakes, and people working in doctors' offices who are doing those notes on the medical records make mistakes.
Yeah.
But the surrogate can't just say that didn't happen and we proceed. We do have to get some
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
documentation that it was incorrect.
But
because-
we will advocate for you.
Absolutely.
Like, we will help you figure out how to
What we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, like, well, it says that, so you're out. Like, we do see people as a whole picture.
I think that right there, I think, is what does make us so special and so unique, is we are perfectly content to go the extra mile and to say, hey, it says this. You say you're not.
Tell me
Like,
more.
Tell me more. Yep.
Tell me more.
Let's talk
Let's
more.
have the conversation versus, oh, I see this on the medical records. Let me send you a denial email, and then we call it a day.
There are a
need to
lot of
talk about
other
that.
agencies that, because they've taken money from the intended parents immediately and they owe them a match, they are matching very quickly before all the due diligence has been done on the surrogates. And a lot of matches are breaking when they get to the clinic, and the clinic is denying them. When they get to contracts and they didn't finalize and discuss all the compensation prior to that. And that is just not something that we are seeing in our agency because of everything that we do.
Done on the front end. Yeah.
We want you to be able to move forward once you're ready to move forward. And
Or if you have really strong preferences, we work with surrogates who are not open to terminating a pregnancy. Not all agencies do that. We do. But if you're someone with really strict preferences like that, asking the agency that as well. You know, I'm not open to terminated pregnancy, or I'm not open to receiving any vaccines. Like, how many, do you have IPs that meet that criteria? What does that look like for me?
And if they can't answer that question, if they can't tell you how many they have at any given time, then why not? Why don't you know that?
But really asking those questions on the front end, and certainly before you sign anything, although I would caution anyone to not sign anything until
Right.
matched.
And to make it very clear, a surrogate and intended parents only sign something when they are officially matched. After all of this due
Right,
diligence.
which means their records have been accepted by the clinic.
approved.
They've met over Zoom
match meeting,
and match
yes.
meeting. They've gotten to know each other and then decided.
Yes.
And everyone has said yes.
Yes.
Correct.
A lot of times, that's one of the first things that I feel like surrogates, potential surrogates, will use on the boards. It's like, okay, well, which agency is going to give me the most?
Well,
and what does
first,
that mean?
It's not the agency giving you the money.
Correct.
It's the intended parents that you're caring for first and foremost. So I think that some people do come for how can I maximize my financial gain the most during this process? Because at the same time, like, if you could work for two different companies, why would you take one job for half the amount when you're going to do the same work for either company?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, like, these are actual people who are possibly remortgaging their home and using their retirement funds in order to make this happen. So how do I get the most out of them possible isn't maybe the best approach to choosing who you want to carry for. But at the end of the day, the compensation package that you're getting is varied, and it does vary a lot from agency to agency. And when you see a whole number, sometimes that big number means you got all the extra compensation because everything that could go wrong did.
You had a C-section. You had,
You were on hospital bed rest.
lost your organs. Yeah.
Okay, so speak into that, because when you hear the word compensation, and then you hear base compensation, what is the difference? What does that mean?
Yeah. Your base compensation is just the amount you get for the pregnancy and the delivery of the baby.
Quite literally, I am pregnant.
Yes.
I get this.
It is split into 8 monthly payments, and you get 8 equal monthly payments, and you get one each month that you're pregnant. You're being compensated really for being pregnant that month. We're not baby selling and you get $65,000 at the end, but you're compensated each month for being pregnant that month. So that's your base compensation. And then everything else, be it, your maternity clothes fee, or if you needed a C-section or what else, everything else is in addition to that base number. So when these surrogates see, like Lauren said, make up to $105,000, that's probably the base. And you'll see that. You absolutely are seeing six figures now make up to, but it's the base compensation, and it's all the mileage reimbursement, and it's your C-section fee, and it's it's everything. It's lost wages because you were on bed rest and you got lost wages for 3 months. It's all the things all into one. So those numbers are enticing.
And misleading.
And so you really got to dig in and itemize them and see really what does that really look like if I have just a normal healthy pregnancy,
Sure.
no bed rest, vaginal delivery, all that. Like what am I really going to expect to bring home?
What does that mean when we say, no, you get to pick your base compensation, and how does that relate to matching?
Yeah, so part of the application process is they literally get to customize their compensation package. They're able to put the base that they're seeking, and along the way, there's additionals. If you are going to pump and XYZ, like there are additionals, and we offer like pelvic floor therapy. I mean, some great incentives, and even it goes beyond baby, like after delivery, like there's some incentives as well, but it is customizable.
Right.
And just because you do get to choose exactly what you want your compensation to be, and we will present that to the parents that you choose, but they can still say no. And they can also say, this doesn't feel like the right match for me, I mean, the surrogates get to choose first.
Yeah.
But it does come to what is most important in what you're looking for in your match and your experience. We have seen some beautiful relationships develop when people are open and honest and vulnerable. And the key to the most successful journeys is empathy. It's empathy from the surrogates, understanding that the intended parents have been on a really hard road to get here, and this is costing them probably everything they've got. But for intended parents to also be empathetic to surrogates, like, yes, they are being compensated, but they are sacrificing a lot in order to be able to help with this. And when people remain kind and empathetic, journeys go really well usually.
Yeah.
That is such a key part that you just brought up, that remaining empathetic to surrogates. Sometimes when intended parents come in and they have read a whole lot on the internet and the way surrogacy talks about women, it feels like you're buying a product off a shelf, and these are people, not products. And so even just having that conversation up front of like, you're not picking out a car. Don't think of this like this is a person that you're dealing with. You talk to them, you treat them, you think about them like a human being, and treat them with the respect and dignity that they deserve. And most intended parents aren't coming in thinking that that is their behavior or their thought process. I certainly didn't, but then it takes a little bit of reflection during the process to go, wait a minute, this isn't just, a service that I'm purchasing. This is a person who is part of our family story for the rest of our lives. Who do I want that person to be? And how do I want to treat them? And what do I want our story to be together is a really big part of this.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I feel like that just speaks into it. Like you said, it's not just a service. It's not just a means to an end. It's a whole new relationship that you didn't necessarily know you were going to have, but is going to be so important, and not just for this short period of time.
It is going to be a relationship with us.
Yes.
Right.
For sure.
Yes.
There are other agencies that you can match through where you will not have a relationship with your surrogate, and you might not even have much of a relationship with your coordinator. That will not happen with us.
Right.
Because we are all about relationships and caring for people.
Yeah. You have intended parents that are so focused on, I just want to find that match. I just want to get this process started. But there's so much that comes after. How do you make them aware of that support and that value of the support after that match has gone forward?
We make sure that they know that they will be guided through the whole process with an expert, which is one of our amazing coordinators who most have been surrogates before. Yeah. So while they're talking to us as intended parents and we are sharing our own experiences and just meeting them where they are, just to know that they're going to be guided the whole way through with truly an expert in this whole journey. Our coordinators have run so many cases.
And they are some of the most amazing humans I have ever met.
Absolutely amazing humans that also happen to be experts in this very unique world of family building. So I think that's really important, just to let them know that it's a full service. And what that full service means is support. So not just logistics, but also true emotional care and support throughout the whole process.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite parts of our process right now is when a family has matched and they've had a full education, they've had a full matching service. Before their journey truly begins, they meet with someone from our team, and I get to do these calls a lot right now, but different members of our team will, where we share with them the best and worst things that can happen before their journey even starts, and say to them, now, having heard absolutely everything that could happen, we don't want to scare you, but we do want you to know best case, worst case scenario, and everything in between. Can you enthusiastically consent to this journey? And having that fun high five moment at the end of those calls with parents has been so encouraging for me, but I think empowering for them too, to say, okay, I see the full picture and I know what I'm getting into. And in part of that call, we talk about their support network, and we call it Team Baby. Yes. And so they have a coordinator, but they also have someone on our team who does an extraordinary amount of work with insurance and with checking booklets and figuring out when booklets come out and figuring out which policies apply in which states and in which zip codes, because apparently zip codes matter as much as states matter, and supporting them in that way. And then there's another person on our team that gets involved if there happens to be a conflict with a hospital or with a clinic or with an attorney or with another industry professional. There's another person who comes in and supports, and then of course their coordinator is with them all the time, and that's the beginning of Team Baby. And in addition to them, there's a Facebook community of intended parents at all stages in the process, some of us raising kids post-delivery, who are jumping in, celebrating transfer days, but also giving advice when a parent says, do you get your surrogate a Christmas present, and how does that work? Just having a community of people who have lived this to talk to, I think, has been so helpful for so many of our intended parents, because a lot of us come into this and we don't have a single friend who has ever done surrogacy. There is no one to call and ask, do you say Happy Mother's Day to your surrogate who is pregnant with your baby? Who do I ask those questions to? And so having Team Baby plus this like really healthy network of current and previous IPs, I think has been a really special part of our process.
Yeah, for sure.
No intended parent gets to us without some level of disappointment or trauma prior to.
Right. Yeah.
The last thing we want to do is create any more for them. Yeah. And I think educating the surrogates and their commitment to the process before is huge in being able to do that.
Why is education in this so important before you even see an intended parent profile?
I think a lot of women don't understand the commitment that goes into it. I'm going to have a few appointments, then I'll be pregnant, and then I'm good at being pregnant. So at the end, and the length of commitment, we got to talk about that, how long it can actually take if we have a failed transfer or a miscarriage or things like that. The length of commitment, the medications involved. Some come to us not understanding the medications involved. Well, I'm scared of shots. I can't do the shots. Surrogacy might not be the best option for you then. We got to talk about that. And we've talked to intended parents whose surrogates backed out at medication time because they were never told they were going to have to do injections. And they had spent so much money on this surrogate, and she backed out because no one ever told her. And so it's so important to me and my role that when I hand a surrogate to a coordinator, that she's not learning anything new. She understands what she committed herself to, and I want her to know what that looks like, and not feel surprised, not feel again like it was a bait and switch. Oh, I didn't know I had to do that. Oh, I didn't know I had to do that. And I don't think all agencies do that. I really don't believe that they do all this homework on the front end, that they're able to educate their surrogates in the way that we do. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. And then I get to feel really confident when I clear a surrogate that she's really ready. She's going to do a great job. We don't have to worry.
Yeah. I think one of the things, again, coordinators, if you forgot what was said during, at one point during matching, they're going to refresh you. I promise. Yes, just all of it, all of it. And exactly like what you said, it is unique to you. I'm going to tell you exactly, where is that monitoring clinic? What is this going to look like for you?
What does your insurance situation look like?
All of it. There are so many decisions in the process, and each one of them can feel so heavy and so full of weight. And then maybe there's some decisions that either they don't know, or, hey, no, this one we need you to really focus on. How do you, I guess, give intended parents the big picture of that and help them discern and go through that, particularly in matching?
I think a lot of intended parents start with the ideas of what they would like in their surrogate in an ideal world. And so they would like her to be between 25 and 33 years old. They would like her to have 2 children and no C-sections and no complications and no anything. And they would like her to live not down the street, but like in the same city so that they can go to all of the appointments. They would like her to believe in all the same things that they do when it comes to vaccinations and termination views, and they have this very ideal.
Crystal and Amy, you guys have both shared how you both grew your family through surrogacy. How does that shape how you speak into just this process and as you are guiding and supporting intended parents?
I think it just really helps families trust you from the beginning, to know that you've been through it, and that even though your experience may be different than what they've gone through, that you still just share that, wow, I see you. I understand, because truly I do. Because not many people can, unless they've really been through the emotional ups and downs and the unpredictability and the financial toll and the struggle. And then also, like Crystal always says, the turning of the season. And then there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it is amazing. So it's all of these feelings at the same time. And I feel you just have a better understanding of that, and you can share that with them and help them see that there will be ups and downs. There will be hard moments. It does not usually go perfectly smoothly the whole way through, but that it can still be so incredible.
Yeah.
I've been really surprised in supporting intended parents how I have become more blunt and more direct as a human being than what is comfortable for me. Because I remember sitting in that seat and just feeling so confused, so overwhelmed by all of the information and the vague language that is used so often in this process, and just wanting to know, what's the real timeline? What is the real finances? These are massive life decisions that will affect our family for decades, and some of them for the rest of our life. Will someone just please tell me the things?
Right.
And I am not naturally direct or blunt ever, but I have grown to see that clear as kind in this particular industry, that vague is not a kind way to exist. And so I'm very thankful for the people that I spoke with early on who were very direct and blunt with us, who helped us kind of see clearly versus feeling good but a little bit confused.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard to not want to give people hope, but again, the transparency aspect is just, it's so important. It's so important. And, if you have an intended parent come up to you and say, I want a guarantee that I get a match in a month, there's agencies out there that'll do that.
For sure. We are not it.
No. At the sacrifice of what? Yeah. What is something that you wish every intended parent understood earlier in this process?
There is no mechanism by which you will have control.
Amen.
There is there's no amount of criteria that you can put on your profile that you can require in a surrogate. They all meet ASRM medical best practice guidelines.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there is nothing you can do to ensure that you are going to have the perfect journey, first transfer work, healthy baby in the end. And the more you tighten the grips and try to control, the less likely it is going to be a really healthy, happy journey.
Yeah. And I would say that it's not, that this is a partnership, truly, a collaboration between two families and not a employee-employer relationship. I think
true.
Shifting your perspective that way and seeing it as we are equal and coming together and creating this amazing family. We're doing this together, and seeing it from the start that way is really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
There aren't enough surrogates.
Oh, yeah.
There aren't enough surrogates for everybody. I mean, and I wish so much that we could approve so many of the women that have the best heart but not the best medical records, or the best medical record but not the best heart for this. Like, I mean, if we could get more surrogates to be able to match, we absolutely would. But there's just, that's always what we've been working for, is trying to focus on making the best matches and not the most matches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not withholding.
Yeah. There are no surrogates on my porch waiting to be picked up.
But you bring up such a good point, because not every family is going to get matched. There are not enough surrogates to go around. And so one of the uncomfortable things that our team will share with you, that families are often hesitant about at the beginning, is if you are willing to share your story on our social media, it will help us find more people who are willing to come help your family. And if you are willing to share your story even more broadly on your social media, there are often people in your own community or network who had no idea that this is what you needed and have always thought about it. And families who share their story are almost always faster to match than families who don't, just because there's something about seeing a human story that you just want to help. And it helps us find more.
Them.
Yes.
I could help those people. I get a call. We get a call like maybe every month from a former surrogate that says, I just saw so-and-so's story. Do you think they'd be a good match for me?
Yeah.
And I told you I was done. I told you I was done. I didn't think I'd do another journey, but I saw them and I saw their story.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it's really interesting because at the beginning of this, Crystal, you and Amy both said, you went into this and you didn't have somebody down the street to talk to you about this. But it's so interesting that You probably did, but you just didn't know it.
Right.
The community can feel like you have to be so quiet, but actually, I mean, it's 1 in 6. Like, you're going to know at least a stone's throw away somebody else who's going through this. There is a community out there, and it is absolutely worth sharing your story, whether it's for the purpose of trying to find the right match or just to spread what a beautiful journey this can be and why this is just one more way to build and, create your happy family. Like it is just one more way to do it. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to a potential surrogate, what would that be?
Ask the questions. Like, and when I first start talking to, in the very beginning questions, I'm like, start a note section, like write down all of your questions, I think the best thing is to literally call some agencies and schedule a call, and if they don't have questions, like ask them, like, what should I know?
Tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more.
Just
tell
as
me,
a surrogate,
why should I choose you?
Tell
Why
me
should I
more.
choose your agency? I think that's a great way if they don't know what to
Tell me
ask.
how your process works.
Yeah.
Tell me how your process works.
Yeah.
And I agree. I
in
think one of
those-
the best places to even start, if you want to avoid Google, if you want to go avoid Facebook, go start at Seeds.
Yeah.
Go
They have,
start at
a,
Seeds.
they have a
They
directory.
have a directory.
They
Yes,
have a directory.
of agencies.
Go start
Your
with
agency does not have to be in your state.
Yeah, that too.
No one ever comes to our
Absolutely.
agency door and
Right.
is like, I'm here
They
for
can
my
be
appointment.
anywhere. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you are in the Facebook groups, I do think they can be helpful. They have a little search bar. And if there are agencies you're interested in or that you've contacted, you can search the name of the agency and get reviews from intended parents and surrogates who have worked with that agency. And I do think that is useful. I do. They're typically not allowed to give a review until their journey's completed. So it's not just like, they're amazing because I'm just matched last week and I love them. But actually, once the whole journey is done and they've seen how the whole journey went, how their support went, how, getting all their bills paid went, all of that good stuff. And then they're able to give a review. And I do give weight to those reviews because they are people who have been through the whole process with
they're
those
real people.
agencies. So, yeah, I think that's a great tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Seeds,
Yeah.
reviews.
Reviews or even Google reviews. They're great. Agencies have Google reviews that are worth looking
And
at.
they may be a member of Seeds and they may have great reviews. And then you call them and then you talk to them. And if you get an ick feeling, then you call another one.
Yeah. If someone is listening and thinking, I want to do this, but I don't want to get it wrong, what would you want them to know?
The things that feel like big, scary things now, down the road, a couple years after that baby is here, just don't feel like as big a deal.
Right.
The finances are overwhelming, yes. But if you've ever bought a house,
was
you know what it felt like before you bought it, and a few years down the road looking back going, okay, I'm glad we did that. I'm glad we made that choice. And same thing with a lot of the decisions you make in this process. They feel big and scary. That's why you want a guide to come alongside you. But on the other side of that, when there's a little person in your house, it's a no-brainer. You look back and you go, oh, this is a no-brainer. Of course, this is the life I would choose. Some of the language that we use on our education team is that first call you make is really tough to a surrogacy agency, kind of acknowledging we are going down this road. But often that is the call you look back to and go, oh, that's the moment we turn the corner from the hard things to the good things. That call was the moment when our story took a turn and things got better. And that's what we want to be true for every intended parent.
As we wrap this conversation, I hope one thing feels clear. The agency you choose does so much more than help you find a match. They help shape your entire experience. If you're exploring surrogacy, whether as an intended parent or a potential gestational carrier, my hope is that this conversation helps you move forward with greater confidence, knowing what thoughtful, transparent, and supportive guidance should look like throughout your entire journey. Because at the end of the day, the right team won't see you as another number. They'll see you as a person, honor your unique story, and walk alongside you every step of the way.